This is the old Kelsey schoolhouse, which sits on the very site of Nopochitotoma, which was the seat of power for the hill Nixon for about 2,000 years. The spring Wedas, which was the spring bear dance, was held right in this area here. And according to several accounts, better than 700 warriors would come here even as late as the 1860s. And this was my father's grammar school. This is also my oldest boy's preschool. Now, when my father came to school, he rode a bicycle with his shotgun tied to the handlebars. Wilbur Tim rode his horse. He always had his carbine on the scabbard by the saddle. He had to tie his horse over here. And they had to put their guns in the closet. And there's still scratch marks on the wood where the front beads. Some of the girls would bring a shotgun because they would hunt on their way home from school. A little different idea about gun control. Now, this schoolhouse and its predecessor, the old Kelsey schoolhouse, were built by the hill Nixon. Kopahembo was a frequent visitor, a guest speaker at this schoolhouse and the prior one. And to make a point, it wasn't until my father entered the 2nd grade that Margaret Kelly retired. And when Margaret Kelly started teaching in 1886 over here in Greenwood Elementary School, Kopahembo was a frequent guest. And when she moved here, he was still a frequent guest. He didn't pass away until 1898. But all of the school kids they were excited about Kopahembo coming to talk. And he was very much a proponent of education, and they helped build the first and the second to this one. The first one burned down after a year or two from a forest fire. And they also built the Bear Creek Elementary Schoolhouse, which were the 2 first schoolhouses here in El Dorado County. Now, to give a little anything on this was very different. The south end of the county, which became Amador County, Native Americans were not allowed to attend school until after the First World War. He achieved a level of integration. There were a lot of Indian kids attending the school down here in Greenwood, here, and over at Bear Creek, fully integrated, except during the American Civil War. They had to segregate them because the children from Kelsey were pro-Union. And the children from Spanish Flat were pro-Confederate, and they were getting in fights in the one-room schoolhouse. So they got the Indian kids out of the mix and put them in the middle of the classroom to keep the kids from Spanish Flats separated from the kids from Kelsey so they wouldn't be getting in fights during the Civil War. So, barring that one piece of segregation that they had, there was no segregation of the Indian kids in these schools. And it's another thing that makes El Dorado County very much the exception to the rule. The achievements by Kopahembo are unique in that even at the time of my grandfather and grandmother getting married up in Chico, the Baptist preacher said he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't marry an Indian to a white girl. Not going to do it. If you came down here to Auburn, they couldn't sit together. Indians got to sit in the Indian seats. You don't sit in the seats with the white folks. But as soon as you cross the river to Cool, Greenwood, Georgetown, and Placerville, you had full integration. You could sit, it didn't make any difference. This is primarily due to Kopahembo and the Cherokee who showed up here during the gold rush's influence that established this as very different than what you would find further south in the Sierra Nevada, further north, just from Auburn north, or over on the Coast Range. Really part of a thing to say that El Dorado County achieved a level of racial integration the rest of the country would not see for 130 years. And this is largely the result of the leadership of Kopahembo, the primary hook of the Hill Nixon and Washoe people living here on the Georgetown Divide.